Hi, this is Mike and welcome to my vlog about Burnley FC. We've come back to action after the World Cup break with a fantastic 3-0 win away at QPR. QPR were high-flying up until fairly recently, but have got some managerial trouble where basically their manager did an Owen Coyle and buggered off to Rangers at the first available opportunity, despite having only actually been in that particular job for about 4 months. So we were going to go down to a club that is not in the best of conditions at the moment, which is a bit of a shame because they were flying pretty well in the early part of the season. And you always have that fatalistic view, not least as a football fan or a Claret, that all the momentum that we gained for the first portion of the year will be completely stalled by the World Cup. But no, it didn't happen. It went out to Loftus Road, 3-0 victory. Fantastic performance as well, but you know, a couple of little flaws, not least that penalty claim in the opening seconds. Was it a penalty? Was it not a penalty? It probably was. It's what I call a Pep penalty. Not that you would ever accuse Pep Guardiola of indulging in the cynical side of the game, because he gets very upset about that. But his forwards do have a tendency to knock the ball forward and then fall over the goalkeeper. It tends to work in the Premier League with VAR. I think we got away with it on Saturday. I'm not entirely sure why the ref didn't give it. Maybe he was thinking it was too far outside the goal, you know, too sharp an angle or something like that. But I thought it was a penalty. I thought we got away with it, and that would have put a different complexion on the game. And speaking of the ref not quite getting it right, the Cork free kick, or the free kick that led to JBG's goal, he got up saying it wasn't a dive. Looked like one to me. But there you go. That's probably an example of how difficult it is the referee's job is to tell the difference between a dive and a foul, because it looked like it was a dive, but he gave it as a foul. But there was no contact, and Cork's basically going, no, you shouldn't have given it. And if I was a QPR fan, I'd be absolutely livid when JBG puts it into the corner, leaving the keeper rooted to the spot. Although there is a shot from behind him where basically there's a huge, great gap in the wall that says, please hit me here. But to be fair to him, he absolutely did it. And fantastic that JBG scored that free kick and becomes a free kick taker, not least because it means that Josh Brownhill doesn't fire him into row Z twice a week. I've always been a huge fan of JBG. I think it's a crying shame we've lost his prime years to a bunch of niggling injuries. I think that we could have stayed up with a JBG. We could have stayed up last year. I think we would have stayed up comfortably in previous years with someone like him on the wing. You know, don't forget that when we had that fantastic run to the Europa places, Robbie Brady on the left, JBG on the right, and it was incredibly attacking football. So it's fantastic to see him back. I like the fact that Company is hiding the injury proneness, if that's even a word, of JBG and J-Rod by basically giving them sort of 65, 70-minute runouts. I'm not a fan of 5 subs. I think it's a way for the big clubs to yet again tilt the odds in their favour, because if they're struggling against a smaller club, they've got a huge bench full of 50, 60 million pound players that they can bring on. You know, when Man City are already 4-0 up and bring on Kevin De Bruyne and Riyad Mahrez, you just know that it's pathetic. But it is what it is, and you know, I'm not going to say, you know, I'm not always been against it, but you know, I'm going to say I'm a bit hypocritical in that, you know, if we're going to do it, then VK is going to do it this way, and it's quite clear that football is stopping being a 90-minute game or a 90-minute plus 10 of extra time, if for the players, because they're basically getting rotated in and out after 60 minutes. They're using the benches. And perhaps actually mentioning sort of extra time, mentioning no Rotherham's, perhaps that's a better way of actually having the extra time, because at least you know you've got the players for it. One of my bugbears for years has been the amount of time wasting and the fact that the referees don't add on the extra time when they should have done. If they're going to do that now, then, you know, managers are going to want to use their bench, so that's okay. So yeah, back to the top of the league, or at least clear of the top of the league. Importantly, 8 points clear, even at this stage. I think it's 22 games. 8 points clear with 24 games to go. We played everybody except Middlesbrough, who are on a bit of a run of form, and we're 8 points clear of the playoff spots, which is a fantastic place to be. And you're lucky who's in that playoff spot, and they're just basically going to nosedive. Hopefully, we broke them. That would be nice. But yeah, it's interesting to see how 3-0 and 4-1 in derby games, successive derby games, is pretty much screwing them up, which is very nice to see. So we're back now after the World Cup break, and if anyone had told you beforehand that Anas Zaroury would be the last Burnley player left at the World Cup, I'd have shown you a liar, because it's absolutely an unexpected run for them to become the first African team to get to the semi-finals of a World Cup. But it's thoroughly deserved. They've built it on defence. They've taken their chances when they can. They've worked hard, and they've upset the underdog. Upset the favourites. They've beaten Belgium, Spain, and Germany. So, that sounds rather familiar. But good luck to Anas Zaroury. I know he hasn't got on the pitch, but it's going to be a hell of an experience, an incredibly memorable experience for him. And good luck to Morocco. But the star Burnley player of the World Cup, and I had to laugh at this, was Wout Weghorst. Now, I know his time at Burnley was not the most successful, but I've always been a Wout Weghorst fan since he pulled on the claret and blue shirt. I think that he ended up in a situation that didn't help him, not least because he was replacing Chris Wood, and as far as Dyche was concerned, he was a 6'6" Dutch Chris Wood. And I was one of those fans who was screaming at Dyche to change his approach, to change his tactics, because treating Weghorst as a Chris Wood, treating him as a head on a stick, was absolutely wasting the man's talent. Yes, he can head a football particularly well, but his real skill as a hold-up guy, as a man who has better feet than you would probably think for what's the phrase, good touch for a big man, that was where his skill was, and that was where Dyche steadfastly refused to use it. Who can forget that move he made that basically sold Harry Maguire, turned him inside out against Man United to set up J-Rob for the equaliser, and that was his best performance in a Burnley shirt. The guy ran his socks off for 90 odd minutes, set up a goal, could have scored himself, was an absolute driving force, and that was the guy that I was hoping to see. His record wasn't particularly good, and it was kind of interesting to hear the comments from the pundits during the World Cup going, well, he was useless at Burnley. Well, these are the same people who said sacking Dyche was a mistake, so, just goes to show that being wrong is actually a qualification for a job on the BBC these days when it comes to football punditry. I love the fact that in the game against Argentina, he managed to get booked while he was still on the substitutes bench to come on, score a header, to scuff a last-minute winner, and then effectively, score a penalty in the shootout and try to start a fight with the Argentina bench. To which point I turned around and said, well, you can take the lad out of Burnley, but you can't take Burnley out of the lad. I'm so pleased. Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. That match was hilarious. Football occasionally descends into farce. There is always one game where it's an absolute clown shoes experience from start to finish, from both sides and the officiating, and it's the most entertaining thing ever. And I absolutely loved that Netherlands-Argentina game. And I love the fact that it was a Burnley guy right at the end of it, in the middle of it, being the focus of attention. It was kind of interesting to see that Weghorst was a target for the Boo Boys when he was at Burnley. And I think that's because there are a significant number of Burnley fans who take a player and rag on him for the sake of it. They have to have their bully, their victim. They have to have someone to complain about, and Wout Weghorst was it. His comments on leaving for Besiktas, the people have jumped on his comments. As far as I'm concerned, the Boo Boys who had a go at him all the way through the end of last season had a go at him for those comments allegedly being disrespectful to the club. If you drew a Venn diagram, it'd be a perfect circle. Weghorst never said anything that was that controversial or outrageous. He's Dutch. That's the way it works. He says his mind. That's the way Dutch footballers are. And, to expect anything else is like to ignore everything else. he clearly had a deal with Alan Pace that said if we were relegated, then he would be able to go off to a different league and a different club in order to try and keep a world club place. That was obvious right from the start, or else he would not have signed for us. And Alan Pace and the board granted that, and I don't see a problem with that. If that is the agreement, the club sticks to the agreement. Like I say, his comments about I'm not playing in the Championship because I want to play in the World Cup, I don't have a problem with that. We weren't in the Premier League. If we had stayed in the Premier League, then Weghorst would likely have stayed. He would likely have played at the front of the Burnley attack, whatever that Burnley attack looked like, and he'd have gone to the World Cup, hopefully. So I don't blame a player for thinking that way and saying that. I really get annoyed with people who sort of willfully misinterpret what a player says in order to further their particular agenda or point of view. Will Weghorst come back? I don't know. I mean, I actually was saying at the start of the season when we were having striker problems, Weghorst would be the perfect player in the company system. He's mobile, he's quick, he's incredibly good with his feet, and he can head the ball. But, it's unlikely he's going to come back. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. We'll, take whatever transfer fee we get. What I do find funny is that there were a number of comments from Besiktas that basically said, yeah, we like Weghorst a lot. We have an option on him, I believe, for €10 million. But we'll try and knock him down on that. Yeah, well, good luck with that after that World Cup performance. In fact, given the negotiating prowess of ALK and what we've seen them do in terms of transfers, it wouldn't surprise me if that option the Besiktas have for €10 million is at Burnley's discretion, and we may end up either increasing it for Besiktas or maybe selling him to another club for, say, €15 million. The only person who could not have been happy about that Weghorst performance against Argentina was the Besiktas chairman, who saw the price going up. And I absolutely love that. I love the fact that we're likely to potentially be back in the Premier League. No, I'm not going to jinx it. And actually make a profit on a player who can do a job for us but is unlikely to come here anyway. So that's money in the bank. So yeah, put me down for Wout Weghorst fan club, always have been, and when you see the sort of shithousery that he was doing in the Argentina game, then I'm all for it. So this week is Middlesbrough. This weekend it's a game I'm managing to get to. Interesting one. I have some thoughts about Burnley and Middlesbrough in terms of the respective clubs and the way that they do things, but that's for next week. In the meantime, the last video I did was the best in terms of views, and I thank you so very much for that. If you like this kind of thing, then please click like, give me some feedback and comment down below. If you really like it, please click subscribe. Let me know. If you don't like it, that's fine, let me know a comment as well. If you see me at Turf Moor, say hello, all that stuff. And in the meantime, take care and up the Clarets.